Hello everyone and welcome to Paranormal Thursday. I do hope we're all doing okay. I think I apologise about the delay.
I'm just going to watch you.
Okay.
That's all.
I do apologise about the delay on this week's episode. Obviously it was originally supposed to be Tuesday and then yesterday and then of course we did have some technical issues yesterday, so but we are live today.
That we did.
But we're finally live now, which is all good. Let us know who is watching with us. Let us know who is watching with us this evening. As you can hear, Alan's in the background. Alan, go on in front room, love.
I'm just going to watch you.
Okay. Anita, good evening. I hope you're doing okay.
How are you doing, Anita?
I'll just try and get this it's a bit bigger. For some reason it's a little bit small. There we go. Carrie's on. Good evening, Carrie.
Carrie.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
We're back.
I'm trying to make this a bit bigger. As you gather, the computer is still. We haven't moved the room around.
Just next to that for now.
Okay. So, guys, before we do get into this week's episode, don't forget we are sponsored by Paranormal Technology. Mark, look at that for timing, my friend. Don't you, buddy?
Yeah.
Well done, mate. We are sponsored, of course, by Paranormal Technology, finding the truth. Specialist in paranormal equipment. As you see in every investigation we do, all our equipment is from Mark.
That is
check.
good.
I don't want to go down here, but
Eleanor, go on in that front room for me, love.
No.
Go on.
Everything. I'm just going to watch you.
So, as I've said, it's half term now, everybody. This is, I don't know what schools finish on Wednesday, but they do for some reason.
They do?
Anyway, we are sponsored, of course, by Paranormal Technology. As I say, all our equipment is from Mark. And as I say every week, if you get your equipment from Mark and show him that you've liked our page, you get 10% off your first order. So, absolute win-win. And yeah, we've got quite an interesting episode for you today. So, as I mentioned, I've got some stories. Obviously, you know nothing about these. So,
it's dark here.
Yes, I've been professional. I've got notes, and I do have some notes on my phone. So, what I want, guys, within this episode is your thoughts. So, what you think of these stories, if you think it's real, if you think there's a rational explanation to them, and any experiences you may have had which are similar to, within regards to obviously what happened within these stories I'm going to share with you. But before we obviously do that as well, this is our Halloween schedule. So it has changed slightly. So I did mention, of course, about the Pendle Witches thing didn't go to plan.
Yeah.
But we have something else planned within regards to that, which is coming together. But it's just going to be about a month later, unfortunately. But it's fine. So Halloween schedule, and if anything, it's got better.
Oh yeah,
definitely. Halloween in school yesterday.
Yeah. So on Monday, we have a live investigation for you. Like you said, it's originally supposed to be Pendle Witches, but we have me and Bob will be live from location, and this one is creepy. And
I'm not going on my own.
It's a bit of a trek to get there. It's a bit of a longer drive than we normally do, but it's
it could be worth it. We could get some good evidence.
Yes, it's going to be quite interesting. And then, of course, on Tuesday we have the normal Paranormal Tuesday. Okay, it's fine. Just leave it. On Tuesday we have Paranormal Tuesday where we're going to do a bit, talk about, of course, Halloween and a few other bits. And then Wednesday we have Paranormal Living Story Time. So we're going to be talking about our scariest experiences.
Yeah, we've got a few things coming up, so stay tuned.
Yes, and obviously with Paranormal Living Story Time, I want you to share your experiences as well with us. Then Thursday we will be live with Denise. She's taking control of this live. She's going to be in charge. And as I mentioned before, this is something we've never done on live before, and it's going to be completely different. And the fact that we do have a medium with us makes it a lot safer.
Oh, of course, yeah, I agree.
Of course, as mentioned, it's Norwegian.
Protection.
Absolutely. And then Sunday, we have our Halloween special live investigation from another very, very freaky, eerie location. So make sure you tune in with us, guys, and be a part of our Halloween special right there. So, first story. I did a podcast on this. So for those who haven't seen the podcast, you can go back. It's on YouTube, Google Podcasts, and Apple. Just type in Paranormal Living Podcast, you find it.
Right.
Bob's obviously not heard this story. If you want the full length, half an hour podcast, obviously find that. It is on there. But this, I'm not sure how many. Have you ever heard of the Bell Witch?
No.
Okay. So the quick version, I do have the quick version here. But within regards to the Bell Witch was one of the first ghost stories
No.
I'd ever come across. I remember at school when I used to read the paranormal. Eleanor, when I used to read the paranormal books on the way to school, we used to. This is one of the stories to come across, and it always stuck with me. So,
Right.
and weirdly enough, it is.
I might have an idea once I listen to some of it.
So this happened just over 200 years ago.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wasn't around then, but yeah, you know, I might have heard it from somewhere.
So here's from 1817 to 1820. This haunting happened in Adams, Tennessee, which is now known as Adams, Tennessee. But back then it was just farmland.
Right. Okay.
So you had John Bell and his wife Lucy, who was a farmer.
Right.
So they moved to this location and obviously started their own farming, and they had 6 children.
Right.
3 of them were soldiers.
Yeah.
Who was in the Civil War, I think, if I remember, and one of the future presidents of the United States.
Really?
He did come to the house to check out the ghost hunt. Yeah. So the first experiences they had in regards to the haunting after they moved in, they were pretty pleasant for the first couple of years. But then it was, I think it's 1812 they moved in, but like I say 1817 it all started.
Right.
So the first experience was knocking, which is quite I think early poltergeist activity that tends to be. Yeah. So they had knocking and the hearing of chains clanging.
Ooh.
And the doors rattling as well.
Ooh.
So this was happening in the early stages.
I just want to
Obviously.
put that in.
Okay. So this is obviously very creepy for them. Obviously well, it's creepy for anyone, but obviously back then, within this little wooden farmhouse shack.
How would you feel in that?
Oh,
You know what I mean? You got a presence like that.
So following this haunting, it did seem to get worse. I do apologise, everyone. Eleanor, go on in the front room, love.
I'm just going to stand there.
Just want to stay and watch you. So following this, the haunting did gradually get worse, and then they started hearing dogs fighting in the house. Ooh. Unexplainable. Obviously, they didn't have a dog, so they started hearing dogs, and again the chains clanging, doors rattling, to the point where one of the youngest daughters, which was called Betsy, started getting physically attacked.
I just go from room and come back.
Okay. So the bed sheets started then coming off the beds, so they started being ripped from the beds. Betsy was being physically attacked, so being pinched and hair pulled, and obviously, again, very poltergeist activity.
So it took 2 years before this activity all started?
It started gradually getting worse, yeah.
Wow. There must be a reason for it.
Well, so this was happening, and it was getting worse and getting worse, to the point where one of John's friends, John, who's the father, his friend decided to stay the night and experience the same thing Betsy. The slapping, the bed sheets being ripped off, doors banging, chains, dogs, everything you could possibly think of was happening at that point. So then people, especially back then, news travels within the village they lived in. So people started coming round to the house to experience what they were experiencing. And at that moment, they heard a voice from the entity, which is now being known as the witch. Is now known as the Bell Witch. And it started shouting biblical texts.
Wow.
Right, verses from the Old Testament, New Testament, and things like that. And also, they were hearing gossip as well of like what was going on in people's houses. This was being shared from this voice, which you can't explain. But then at the same time, so like you said, hauntings getting worse, all these terrible experiences. But Lucy, who is John's wife, I hope you're following this. Yeah, that's all right. I'm trying not to read too fast. She didn't have a problem with the spirit.
She never got any activity at all.
So,
she never see anything.
So the youngest son, who was called John Jr., I think it was, he and his mum, Lucy, never had an issue with the entity.
Wow.
So while this was going on, she was receiving gifts. So these gifts were falling from the ceiling like fruit.
Really?
Yeah, fresh fruit was literally just falling from the ceiling. And this was happening to her. And again, I imagine at this point it's causing a rift because she's probably going, there's nothing wrong with receiving gifts, but the spirit isn't liking the rest of the family. And obviously now known as the Bell Witch, she took a really big dislike to John Bell, again the father of the family, to the point where he started to hear curses. And
so he was hearing things,
but really bad things, like she was cursing him, and kept saying that she's going to kill him. So this was happening at the time of obviously this, to the point where in 1820 John passed away, and he wasn't that old. I think he was in his 50s. Obviously, I know it's quite old back then, but at the same time, it's still not that old.
Oh, no.
And with everything that happened, next to the bed where John passed away, there was a cup with, obviously, I imagine water in it or something. And one of his sons was a bit untrustworthy because obviously all the things he'd experienced over this couple of years. And then he gives some of the liquid to the cat, and the cat collapsed and died.
Oh, that sounds a bit. That's
and then it's come out that he's been poisoned. There was poison within the cup. Okay. And weirdly enough, one of the experiences they had when he died, they heard the witch laughing, and then everything seemed to stop. Then I think on a few occasions they still heard bits, but it wasn't obviously as bad as what they'd experienced previously. But as soon as he died from obviously the poisoning, it all seemed to cease.
So do you feel that well, listen to what I think. Do you feel that the wife was being possessed to do these things, like you say, with the cup and the poison, that she did it? She done it because she was being controlled by some entity in the house.
Well, so this leads me on so that I've got a few questions. So, guys, good evening, Craig. Hope you're all right, buddy.
Craig, away.
So, within this story of what happened, this is why I want your thoughts. So they class it as a legend, even though it's in ghost books, and one of the presidents of the United States went and seen this for himself. Because one of the things that has been proved, there's a lot of what's the word? There's a lot of people experience this for themselves. You know what I mean? It wasn't just this house is haunted. They physically experience things, like you say, hearing the voices, and everything. Which leads me on to it's a typical poltergeist case, like the knocking, one of the youngest daughters being physically harmed and stuff. Excuse me. And one of the questions I want to ask you guys, and you of course, is...
I'll give my answer.
There's a few questions within the story of this. Do you think it might have been the fact that they moved into the farmhouse and they were farming on the land could have started the trigger of the activity? So that is our first question. So guys, never mind they've been in there probably 5 years. They've been in there 5 years before this activity started.
See, 5 years now.
And it was from this moment, from 2017. 1817 is when the activity started. So
I feel there's something.
What do you feel may have triggered? That's what I want to ask the question.
Me, I think that you say 5 years they was in there, they never experienced anything.
Yeah, and then 1817 it started.
And then it started. So something coming to their possession, I believe, I don't know what, but someone might have come into their possession that was, I don't know, which was causing what was going on. I don't know. I'm quite baffled about that one because you're talking 5 years and they had nothing at all, but then they started getting voices, they started getting things from the ceiling and stuff like that, and activity, and it was like this demon, what was it, witch, you say?
Yeah, now known as a bell witch.
She could have took control of the wife, and playing one against each other.
Yeah.
But as for him dying early, I presume he was poisoned by his wife, which was something to do with the thing that was possessed.
Could well possibly. It reminds me of...
possessed her.
I said this on the podcast. So like I say, if you go on Google and Apple Podcasts, you can listen to the whole story. There's a full-length version of it. It reminds me of The Conjuring. And also when I got to interview Andrea Perron, there's some quite similarities in both cases.
Oh, I agree, yeah.
But yeah,
weird one, that.
And that leads me, like you say, guys, make sure you get your comments in.
Oh yeah, give us your comments, because
we have one here from Carrie. Maybe the move started something.
It's a possibility, yeah.
And the changing certain things is kind of what started it. That's absolutely. I wonder if they carried out some renovation work, disturbing something.
That's another thing.
Well, this is it, because I don't know if that log cabin was there pre to when they moved in, or if they'd built it themselves, on the land. But I do know there is a cave not too far. I think the kids might have gone playing around the cave. So
see, that cave could be something to do with it. The kids could have gone out and found someone and brought it back to the house, or like somebody said, a rebuild, or somebody's building an extension or something like that. That usually wakes up what's going on. Yeah. But to me, it sounds a bit forceful. It sounds like that one was playing against each other, because it's funny because you said two of them didn't. The wife and one of the kids,
the youngest son,
and they didn't experience nothing.
No, they had no negative. They had the noises and the things, but in regards to the negative side of it, or the nasty bits, they'd never had any experience like that. They had pretty good experiences with that.
I would have questioned things actually falling from the ceiling.
Well,
that's my question straight away. When she see that, you'll say, "Oh yeah, somebody just dropped something in for me." You know what I mean? There's got to be, you got to question. Hang on, what's this doing coming from onto the floor?
Well, this leads me on to another question.
I'm surprised there weren't coins involved in it as well.
Well, this is one of the questions I want to ask you all in a moment. Mark said it could have been the children reaching a certain age that can trigger that sort of things to happen.
Exactly.
Well, this is it. It's that very. It's the same thing within regards to poltergeist activity. It's normally the same kind of thing. Especially, it's normally a young girl, and then the knocking starts and the tap-ins and things, escalate to pretty craziness, and then something happens, and then it's all in.
It's just the fact that you're saying that activity did not start for 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years.
So they was in there 5 years, they got nothing.
Although there is one thing I've just remembered, but I didn't write down in my notes. So I think it was.
They live near a church or a graveyard.
It's just like a village. It's just countryside land. This is before it was even.
So you don't even know what was built on that, do you?
Well, this is it. And one of the things he did.
That's what I would question. Definitely.
One of the things that was mentioned in regards to story is, so he's quite well known for farming.
Yeah.
So where they lived, there was. Obviously, he was a keen farmer, and that's what become quite well known for, the family.
Wow.
The grave is still there. You can actually go see John Bell's grave. And one day with Betsy's a young girl, obviously, who was attacked and had obviously these terrifying experiences. They saw this. They called it like a goblin type dog, like half dog, half something.
See, yeah, that could have been.
And it was along the grounds. And it wasn't until it was on his land, and then he went back to get his gun. The thing had disappeared.
What are they calling things? Shifters.
I
can't remember
what you mean. Skin crawler things.
Yeah, something like that.
That's what they call it, yeah.
Where they can change to anything they want. See, I don't know, but I mean that is a real good story. But I'm just trying to question how come it took 5 years before they got any activity.
Yeah.
And she see things falling from the ceiling and never questioned it.
Well, this is it, right? So this leads me on to the next question. Mark's just mentioned something there about things being recorded of things falling from the ceiling.
Yeah.
So Lucy had, like I say, pleasant experiences in regards to this story. And one of the interesting things is there is a place, I think it's in the down Kent way, I think.
Oh.
And basically, so within the where this place you can go in the south of England, it's all physical mediumship. So you'll see trance mediumship where the ectoplasm comes out the cabinet, things like that. But they also is a thing you can do where things fall from the ceiling. Coins, things you've lost, right? Will literally, there's nothing there and all fall from the ceiling.
So it's like a portal.
Yeah, basically. So
it's taking your stuff and sending it through a portal.
Well, this is what I'm really interested in. I'm trying to find out where it is. Because I was told about this place. I'm like, that sounds pretty.
Actually, that sounds amazing.
To experience it.
Yeah.
So when the things fall from the ceiling, people saying like coins, things they've lost, and they're literally appearing right in front of them. So before you go in the room, you can check it, make sure there's nothing dodgy going on. Same with the medium. When they're doing the physical mediumship with the ectoplasm, they stripped off and checked, make sure there's nothing.
Yeah.
When they put in the cabinet and the thing appears. So this has actually happened to people who've experienced this, even in modern day, have experienced the things falling from the ceiling.
And then
things
going missing. Stopped, did you? It stopped. It never happened again.
Well,
or did it?
After the end
other
of
people moving out. Or...
I'm genuinely not sure. After this story, there's not much.
So this is what I'm saying. We don't know, do we?
No. So with the things falling from the ceiling, my personal thought is, which obviously I'm putting the question out to you guys as well. Do you think things like that breed off people getting angry and being scared?
Yeah.
And do you think, because Lucy was having a pleasant time with the spirit, the fresh fruit falling from the ceiling, the sun not being scared of it, do you think that was there to cause a rift? Because he would have been like, we need to move, or we need to get rid of this thing, whatever it is. It's absolutely terrifying. And then on the other hand, she's going, no, it's fine. We're getting presents.
That's what I mean, viewers. That'd be my first question. We need to get out of here. But she didn't even question stuff falling from the actual ceiling. To me, it sounds like she was being taken over by something that was in the house.
Yeah.
I do believe that.
Mm.
I'm not going to say a demonic force, I don't know. But it seems like it was taking over her because she didn't even question anything from the ceiling. Now, if something fell from my ceiling, I would say, something's going on here, we've got to get out of here. And that's just true.
Yeah.
You're not going to say, oh, wow, wonder what they're dropping tomorrow. You know what I mean? But seriously, yeah, that's an amazing story, that.
So there's more, yeah.
Absolutely.
I ain't finished yet. So, guys, I want your thoughts on this as well, like I said. Do you think it was there to cause the rift? Or do you think it's just, it seemed to attract to the elderly, to the mother?
Mm.
So I've got a few comments. I really need to move the computer over there. I will do very soon. It will be in that corner from next week. So we'll be good. Lisa Marie, good evening. Hope you're all right. Hope your mum and dad are okay. Good. Louise, good evening. So Anita has put, when my last relationship ended, the spirit that was in the house started banging, locking me in rooms, shaking my bed in the night. He got up to all sorts of stuff. But he didn't do anything when there was a man in the house.
Perhaps that's because
he wasn't a poltergeist.
Perhaps that's because weakest point when she's on her own, it makes it easier for him to
sort of make himself known.
Make himself known.
Yeah.
And when the presence of a man there, he can't do that or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I understand that.
Definitely.
That's crazy. Yeah. Wow, man.
I can't imagine what that must have been like, Anita. That must have been pretty terrifying. Mark's just put, coins is a big common thing for which I've seen falling. Coach put, that's a hard one to even try and answer. You just never know what started it most times.
Well, this is it. This is my question.
So the next question leads us on to him dying. So he's hearing curses now. So on a rational explanation, you're probably going to go, he might be, because of everything what's going on, it's making him go, he's getting these thoughts in his head and he's thinking it's actually happening when, you know what I mean? Can you send someone, I don't mean in a bad term, like a bit crazy, because you're just like, you can't leave the house and it's just everything's happening and it gets overwhelming, it's just boom, boom. So, and then it obviously led to him being poisoned. But the freaky thing is, so when he died, obviously they give the liquid to the cat died, worked out like this poison in the cup, and then they heard the witch laughing. They heard the cackles of the witch. And I think, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it said something. And then it was only on the odd occasion that they'd had activity after he died. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you think, again, what you mentioned a good point of, could Lucy, the mum, have been influenced by the spirit and then done something and not even realise she'd done it? Because that does happen.
It's possible. Because it's the stuff from the ceiling that's getting me. Well, why wouldn't she say, "Oh, we better get out of here"? You know what I mean?
Was the spirit saying something to Lucy about along the lines that you need to do something?
Yeah,
you don't know. And that's what I want your thoughts. And also, could he have poisoned himself because he'd had enough?
It could have got to a stage where he drove himself that mad. He could have just wanted to take his life.
Well, this is it. This is what we don't know. So, what are your thoughts? I'll let you obviously start with that one.
Me, I agree. I think, it just seems, he's going to go and take some, I don't know. He could have drove himself that mad with all the noises he was getting in his ear, things moving, shadows, whatever he was getting. He could have drove himself mad and said, I don't want to be in this world anymore, and just took his life. Or then it could be on the other occasion, it could be the fact that, because his wife wasn't listening to him, he believed that his marriage was over, and he decided to take his life as well, because it was only his soulmate, and he wasn't getting close to her anymore because she wasn't believing what he was saying. So he just took it out, took his life.
See, when I did the podcast,
then I still think it was poisoned.
Yeah, well, when I did the podcast, obviously I left these questions at the end of the podcast, but obviously that's why I want to do it today as well, to get people's thoughts. Well, Anita was saying then, in regards to obviously her situation, that he was trying to intimidate her for years.
Well, see,
let's putting up with that. I don't think I could have done. Mark just put there, could be that the spirit felt threatened by a man being in the house.
Exactly.
Some spirits try to intimidate women, but one if there's a male there. That's a very good point, Mark.
I agree with that.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting...
there could be loads of answers to it. Like I say, we don't know, but just give us your ideas, what you think. Like I say, mine is... I've got a few ways of going with this, but I do think he was poisoned. And she was controlled by whatever was in there, and she poisoned him. That's what I feel. I don't know.
And the fact that the whole family, everyone heard the spirit laughing. But I think that's it.
Weird.
That's crazy. And the fact that they're all hearing things, even the people in the village were hearing things. And this is, and even one of the presidents who was due to, I think it was Andrew Jackson. I think it was, and I think that was the president what came to the house to experience it for himself.
Did he experience it?
Yeah, to the point where one of the stories is with regards to that. So him and the army went round to the house, or a few of the men from the army, and when they got there, things were that. Apparently, they heard that much stuff, which freaked them out. And apparently, the spirit was saying things about the men calling them all, saying that what was it now? Sort of intimidating the soldiers, and sort of what's the word? Saying that they're all traitors, things like that. And obviously, back then, especially you couldn't, if you ran away from battle,
I mean, I think I've always got another point.
And then they ended up leaving straight away after they had the experience in the house.
I believe that if entity can actually take control of your house, and if it gets response, it becomes stronger. I don't know, but
it feeds on fear, doesn't it? Especially when it's like that, it's feeding off.
It's weird. That is a very good story. I have never heard that before. That is amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely.
But it baffles you because you don't know where you're going with it. What's the answer?
5 years of living like that, I don't know how people do it. Like the same with the Conjuring thing. As I said, the first, I call it the Conjuring just because it's easier to name the film. But the Perrin farmhouse, which is the first Conjuring film, which is based upon that story. When I obviously got to interview Andrea, she told me some very similar things she experienced, and they were in that house for like 9 years, 10 years, and they lived with this. And I'm like, it must just break you. I don't know how with something so intense. I don't know how people can.
Well, this is it. This is
it's even what Anita was saying then about what she experiences.
I mean, it's just mental. She's not still experiencing nothing like that now.
No, it was in a previous place. Right.
It's just crazy.
Mark was saying 100% agrees with you. He said such. Like you say, it was one of the first ghost stories I ever remember, and then they brought it out as a film. I think it was called An American Haunting. I think that's the name, which quite a few people have seen, which is based upon the story of the Bell Witch. And funnily enough, there was a guy commented on the podcast who lives in I think it was the next town from Adams, Tennessee, or that area, and he was saying about when he learnt about it at school. Everyone knows the legend of the Bell Witch, as they call it. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's always something.
That's weird story.
Yeah,
I think it's amazing. But I want to know where they got the name Bell Witch. I mean,
because his last name was Bell, and they classed it as witch. The witch was
not as witch as in witch as in
witch,
Kendall witch, like
that thing. Witch, like witch.
Weird. There's something demonic for so. I got to say, I think she was taken over and she killed her husband. I don't know.
It's like a game of Cluedo.
It is, because there's so many answers. You could really ravel it out and try and come up with an answer, but you never will because you never know the full story of the history of it.
Like you say, it has been over 200 years. There's, stories can change over the years, but like you say, I think there's too many coincidences for it not to be true. Because that was another thing. I think the experience everyone had, and the fact that people have wrote about it from then, and what they'd experienced.
That's amazing.
I think it was in the local newspaper, something along them lines. I'm sure I'd seen that as well.
Wow.
Right.
I'm impressed with that, actually. That is a cool story. Yeah.
But like you say, I've not plugged it twice, but if you want to listen to the podcast, like you say, Apple or Google Podcast, Paranormal Living Podcast.
Yeah, check it out.
YouTube, Paranormal Living TV. The audio for the podcast is on there. Talking obviously about the Bell Witch, but that gives there's more of a detailed story.
Yes.
It goes on a bit longer, but that was the. Excuse me.
Really, that's quite an amazing story. That I mean, viewers out there, it's just like I've never heard that story, but like I say, it shows that. What you say, 2,000 years or whatever it was.
200.
Sorry, I got the number right. Yeah, about 200 years, yeah? I mean, that shows that paranormal was still going on at that time.
Well,
and paranormal's always been here, I think. You know what I mean?
Experiences, well, even going back to
Yeah.
Along them lines, you've got obviously the Pendle Witches is before that, so 1600s.
Yes.
Salem witch trials when people were killed. Obviously that was, I think that was 1700s, I think. And then obviously even going back to that, like this is one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight. Actually, I wasn't going to bother, but now you're talking about paranormal stuff. So this happened. Let me just get the story up on my phone. So this lady was called Sister Elizabeth Barton, right? She was a nun.
Yes.
She was from Kent. She was known as the Holy Maid of London, the nun of Kent.
Right, yeah.
She was killed. This is before witchcraft, so she was killed on treason back in 1534 by Henry VIII. He charged her and sent her to death. So they were going back obviously quite some years now. So 1534. So going back a long, long time. So she was killed because she had prophecies, and she prophesied about the king's death. And obviously back then that was treason, and that's why she was hung. And she was the only female to be hung and a head shot and then beheaded and a head put on a spike at the Tower of London. The only female within Henry VIII's time for that to happen. Right. So.
Oh, what a shame.
She was known for having, from being a young child, she had these experiences, right? Of, I think it was in regards to healing. She was known for healing and like seeing visions and things and prophesizing about things. So then she became quite, I think when Sir Thomas More heard about her, obviously met her, and she mentioned about these things to Henry VIII. At first, they were pleasant. So obviously then she got to meet Henry VIII. Obviously, absolutely fine. And then because he wanted to divorce his first wife, Anne Boleyn. Obviously, back then it was Catholic, and the Pope wouldn't grant the divorce, which is why we're in Church of England.
I'm with you.
This is a quick run through. She then began to prophesy about the king's death, saying, obviously about him leaving her and then how he's going to die, and he was, and obviously then killed for treason. But that is one of, like you say, that this is pre-witchcraft, but it's the same along the same lines of if it was around then, she probably would have been done for witchcraft.
Oh, exactly, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Like I say, you know, I think sometimes there's more to the story, and I think that they get, you know, these ladies obviously cast out as witches, but there could be a truthful reason for this. And because they're different, because they do things different, they're classed as, they're not like us, so we should give them a name, witch. And that's it, and they get persecuted, and then they get...
So it says here, so when she prophesied about the king's death and the fact that he would lose his kingdom and God didn't stand by him anymore, she was then classed as a false prophet, and that's why she was obviously sent to be hung.
Well, she didn't get very far.
She is the only woman in history for a head to be on a spike at the Tower of London. So Easter 1525, at the age of 19, while working as a servant, Barton suffered a severe illness and claimed to have received divine revelations that predicted events such as the death of a child living in her household, or more frequently pleas of people to remain in church. She also urged people to pray to the Virgin Mary and undertake pilgrimages. I did that the other day. Can't pronounce things. So this happened for quite some time, and then she was a very spiritual lady, and then it was all pleasant at first, and then as soon as.
So I mean, it's.
So I want your
crazy
thoughts. Yeah, so that was a quick version of Sister Elizabeth Barton, obviously the nun.
I would say she didn't get a fair trial.
Well, no one ever did back then. No fairness.
I think if a woman stood up for herself against somebody with royal,
especially Henry VIII.
Yeah, they're going to say, "Well, hang on, this woman's got some guts here." We, at the end of the day, she should be in our, our establishment or whatever. We'll get rid of her, and that's how I look at it.
Yeah, but it's interesting again. It's that
weird.
This is long before, like you say, the paranormal was known in that sense of what it is today. And she was out and it's all wrote about these experiences she was having and seeing things. And it's on a line of clairvoyance, mediumship.
So half of the time, was she right when she was finding out, seeing this stuff that was appearing in front of her?
Everything from healing to visions and stuff, yeah.
They do say sometimes that if you have like a real bad accident and a big operation or what, you can sometimes obviously nearly die and then come back
Yeah,
and
come
have
back,
some
yeah.
different powers.
Yeah.
Well, power,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Some special is, you know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying there, like?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing.
The amount of body experiences.
Yeah, they're two good stories there. They hit on now.
Well, this one is completely in a different topic.
Okay.
It's the same topic within regards to the paranormal, but it's not a story about a witch or.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
So, and I'm interested because Mark is on. Obviously, and a big shout out to Mark again.
Hey, Marty!
From Paranormal Technology. So this is in regards to technology, using technology and animals, right? So this is the story I'm share. Obviously, guys, make sure you check them out on Facebook.
Yeah. Good
all your
stuff.
equipment needs. Absolutely. So this story, I found out the story yesterday. It was on this morning.
Ooh.
And it was called The Real Life Scooby-Doo.
I heard something about that.
Yeah.
I never watched it though.
I watched it because I didn't watch it live. I watched it on YouTube. You know, obviously I watched this morning on YouTube. You know, when you watch the clips. So there was a story on this morning yesterday. So obviously because it's coming up to paranormal, they're talking about ghosts, aren't they? You know, sort of spooky stuff. I had to write this down as notes because I didn't manage to write on the paper. So there was a dog on this morning yesterday, and they called him the real life Scooby-Doo. And one of the first experience they had was the dog was getting like not agitated, but acting weird in where they live in this flat. And there was a certain part of the wall they used to stare at.
Wow.
Yeah. And this was going on a bit, and then they noticed it was the wall where the gentleman who owns him, there's a picture of his mum on the wall.
Ooh.
So the dog was constantly attracted to the picture on this wall, and you know, as if someone were playing with the dog.
Yeah.
So this is what was going on. And the woman, the mother of the dog, the owner of the dog, whatever you want to call her, the guy, husband, wife, husband, she got psychic. She's quite sensitive.
Wow.
She's like clairsentient. So she's had experiences, but he said he's as sensitive as a brick wall. He doesn't really get anything, but it's his wife. So they've been on investigations, they've done paranormal stuff. But because the dog, they're having these experiences with the dog, they decided to take the dog on a.
I was going to say, did they take a dog?
Yeah, so they decided to take the dog with them to see what the dog had sensed.
Yeah.
Because obviously it is noted that animals do experience.
They do
see spirit, and the cat, when she stares at the stairs, and then you stare because you're like, what can they see? Definitely a bit creepy. So they brought the dog on the investigations, and they'd had a lot of, again, experiences, which turned out positive with the dog. But one of the investigations they mentioned, which I thought was quite interesting. So they went to a police station, and before the investigation started, they took the dog round, and she walked round with her dog. So just see if she picks anything up, what the dog picks up. Before they start, and then she said the dog kept pulling to go a certain way. So she obviously got the dog. And then it ended up going down the stairs to these jail cells, which are obviously in the basement.
Wow.
And then the dog started acting funny to the point where it couldn't breathe.
Ooh.
It was panting for breath. She felt really uncomfortable and really freaked out in these jail cells, and the dog was really uncomfortable. But he wouldn't leave, so she had to drag the dog away. And then she took the dog upstairs to give it some water, because it was out of breath and it was very uncomfortable. And I think, if I remember correctly, they said it was quite.
Was he looking at something?
Well, this is it.
Yeah.
So he's been off sensing stuff, the dog, and he's obviously experiencing these like palpitations and stuff, and she's really creeped out. So they left, give the dog some water, and then to obviously chill the dog out, took him out of the way, and then they did find out that 2 people had hung themselves in the cells downstairs where the dog had been, and so it would make sense for the dog to experience the palpitations, and the struggling for breathing, and what she was experiencing as well. So that leads me on to the question within regards to this story. So they were saying they don't use a lot of equipment. They use the dog. They don't really use equipment, electronic equipment. So that leads me on to the question. So do you think that, obviously I know we all know dogs are quite sensitive to spirit.
Dogs can pick lots up, believe it or not.
Do you think it is worth putting all your trust into the dog and not using any equipment at all? Or do you think maybe you're on the thing of let's just use equipment, not that fussed about taking an animal? Or do you think maybe it's in the case of that dog that it's just as more sensitive than other animals? So what are your thoughts?
I'd use the equipment because you're more going to get more of a result with that than you will with a dog. Not in fact like you wouldn't want to put a dog through that situation anyway. You know what I mean? I mean, it's okay taking it on one investigation, but taking him on loads of investigations, that something could happen to him. But no, me, I would definitely say gadgets all the way. You know, as I said, the K2 meters and stuff like that. That stuff, not a dog. No, I wouldn't do that. No.
I think as well, it's good to use both. I wouldn't just put all my faith into just walking around with the dog.
No,
because she said, like, there's another story I've just remembered. She said they went for a walk in these woods, and the dog and her saw something, and the dog was like really creeped out. And then when they turned around, I think if I remember, there was nothing there. So they'd had these experiences.
But the thing with a dog, you ain't never going to find out what that is. Like if you've got a K2 meter and you've got spirit box, you're going to get voices.
Very good point.
But a dog, you're not going to get anything. You're just going to get him running away, or you're going to get him scared, or echoes going up, or whatever. So you're never going to know what he's actually seen.
Well, yeah, that's a very good point.
Not if you stick a camera on his head, but you're not going to do that. You know what I mean?
You're still not necessarily going to maybe see what.
I would go for it. I would definitely go with it. I would go with all the gadgets because you know you're going to get something.
I think splitting between the two. So if your dog, if you take your dog investigation, it says something, boom, let's put something out. You know, like, or even get the spirit box in your hand, or you've got something with you while you're there with the dog.
Okay, so she does this then, right? So what evidence has she got from any taking the dog with her?
In regards to the jail cell was the main story.
So
they weren't on telly long enough to probably give a full story.
You could have done it.
It could have been. It might be worth trying to see, to track him down and maybe get him on the show and to have a proper interview.
Because what you could have done really, you could have actually had a third eye downstairs where the dog is, and you might have caught it on camera.
Saying that, that's funnily enough, you've just reminded me. Not to mention a show, but everyone will know what show we're in about, obviously. And she normally takes a dog when she does watering. She does pre-watering.
Yeah.
And the dog's normally quite chilled. And then it's not till the evening when things seem to happen sometimes. Just a thought. Weird. So yeah, I think a mixture between the two. We've got a few comments.
I mean, how would you feel about taking a dog with you on investigation? I think it's a good idea, yeah, but I would make sure you've got backup stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Like a camera or something like that.
Yeah. Mark's on the phone. Karen just saying about a cat. Yeah, my cat was doing it the other day. She stares at the stairs. She stares at the stairs. Wow.
Yeah, but it's funny. Animals can see things and hear things.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch a load of things on like YouTube with pets and stuff like that, and the things that, some of them do get hurt.
But funny enough, I remember there was a story about this I think it was a video on TikTok, and the dog had passed away. So they had two dogs, and one of them passed away. And then it's like snuggling with something happened between the dog, as if the dog was there. I think it was either snuggling, the way it was snuggling or something, yeah. I've got another story actually, just reminded me. Sure. Well, let's get a few.
Well, you're talking about, I mean, I looked on YouTube, right, and there was one with a cat, right? The poor thing only had like 3 legs. Yeah. He was walking in the living room. Obviously, there's activity going on here. Something's going on.
Yeah.
And he's just walking in the living room. There's a dog there. There's a cat on the sofa, a dog on the sofa. And next minute, this cat is being chucked all around the house.
What? By itself?
Yeah, all by itself. It's moving with its 3 legs, obviously, but walking towards the sofa where the cat and dog is. And next minute, it gets chucked all the way. And then when it goes to the back of the room, the chair moves out. Worth watching. It's mental.
That's right.
Like I say, it's not very nice. So people ain't going to make something like that up to do with pets.
I don't know. Some people are a bit weird, aren't they?
But to me, this cat only had 3 legs, and he was being chucked everywhere.
That's weird.
It was quite upsetting, really.
Yeah, Kerry just said that 100% believe that animals can feel and see things we can't.
Of course they can. Yeah.
I need to put my cats definitely see the spirit. That was in our old house. I'd rather use equipment so pets don't become stressed or put in a dangerous situation. Good point. Well, that's always the risk. It's like anything, even with ourselves, attachments and things. It's a very good point.
No, I mean, like, I agree with you there, right? If you're doing say like a woods location or something like that, put a bit of protection, take a dog with you, I agree with that. Makes sense. Or you're doing like a big building that it's known as there's people, rough people around there, like, you know what I mean, whatever. Take your dog with you. But when you're doing something like everything like just normal, then I don't know. I wouldn't. I'd just take equipment. I wouldn't want to put the dog in jeopardy. Definitely.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Max, but it would be good to have a dog on location now and again, and put the likes of the K2 red pods on its harness to see if it triggers if the dog picks up on things. That's good. That's a cool idea.
Good idea.
Yeah. And Carriage just put there, it would be good to prove that animals actually do pick up on spirit. Yeah, that's a very good point. That. Totally agree there. It's
well, the thing is, you've got sniffer dogs, haven't you?
Yeah.
Not just talking about pets, but you've got sniffer dogs, and sniffer dogs can do amazing things.
The other thing is, though, if you are in a location with your dog, there is nothing to say whoever was there the night before, it could be picking up on who was there the night before.
Exactly.
That's the other thing you've got to make yourself aware of, isn't there? There's still things of where dogs might be like, it smells the scent of something, but you think, oh, it's picked something up, but it could genuinely be something from.
That's what I mean, but we only use a percentage of our brain anyway, don't we? So dogs might have the extra and they can see, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Images. I don't know. It's quite weird.
No,
I'm quite impressed.
So, this leads me onto our last story. Yeah.
Am I going on my own?
And this,
no.
this is I saw this video on TikTok, and I wanted to share it, but it has got a child in it, so obviously I can't share it. Yeah. But so it's in a graveyard. So we've had experiences in graveyards. I know people who watch this have had experiences in graveyards, and I remember my granddad, like quick version, my granddad telling me a story. So the graveyard where my nan and granddad are buried, quite a lot of my family are buried in there. So obviously my nan used to go put flowers down on family's graves, and my granddad saw the priest who married him walking around the graveyard. He literally just appeared in front of him, and he was just walking around the grounds of the church. Yeah, and obviously he'd been passed a long time. My nan and granddad got married at what, 90, I think 55, I think they got married. I think it was. And obviously this is quite a long while after that priest had gone. Anyway, so this is in regards to the graveyard. And it's pretty an amazing video, and I wish I could share it. So it's a little girl. So they've been seeing some family in this graveyard, and this little girl, she's probably about Eleanor's age. She's about 4 or 5. She's only quite young. And then she's in the graveyard, and then all of a sudden she's saying bye to somebody. She went bye, and she stood where this grave is, and then all of a sudden she leans forward and gives a kiss to thin air.
That is amazing.
And she went bye, and then like you say, she gives this kiss, and she's laughing, and it's just like,
wow.
A kid would make that up. And I'm just like, what? When you watch the video, it makes you go like, it gives you goosebumps. It's that kind. I'll show you obviously after.
Wow.
If anyone's on TikTok, if you like, say if you'd like to see, I can share it that way. I just didn't want to share it physically on the page. In that sense.
Right. So what I presume from this,
it is on TikTok on one of the paranormal pages.
She's seen some sort of presence
in the graveyard.
Obviously, she knows his presence.
Yeah, she's talking to them just.
But they do say that children can see what we can't.
Yeah, your mind at that age, like Jeanette mentioned this on the podcast about when she was young, she had these experiences. Quite a lot of people when younger have experiences with the spirit world. And it says you grow older, you'll go through life, and it's when you sort of block a lot of it out. And then it takes certain things to reopen it. Some people will reopen it, some people may not. But yeah, she's physically stuck in this graveyard, she's talking to whoever, and then she gives them a kiss, and then she goes bye.
Does she ever discuss it with her parents?
No, it's just a video of what had happened in this.
Oh, right, okay, I'm with you.
But I don't know the story since, obviously.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I seriously agree that, yeah, I think children can speak, you know, from past people and stuff like that. I believe it.
It's a cute video. And like I said, the fact that she gives it a kiss. She goes, you know.
The reason I said, I mean, like I say, when I was young, I see shadows going up the stairs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which, obviously, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just doing what kids do, you know what I mean? And then this appears going up the stairs, I don't think nothing of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then later in life, I think, hang on, what did I see? You know what I mean?
We probably have more experiences than we can even remember.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that is amazing. Yeah, I agree.
Beautiful story. And
I'll go with that. I agree that happens. I do.
Yeah, and like you said,
it's kids, don't you, that actually say they were lived before.
Yeah.
Where they were soldiers or something like that.
Oh, like
no, come on. There's got to be something there.
Oh, absolutely. I think as well, it's talking about children. Obviously, when Eleanor is, so like, it might have been beginning of last year or the year before. So she's either 3 or 4, and there's a cemetery literally across the road. There's a street, and then at the back of the street, there's a cemetery.
Yeah.
And one of my favourite singers is buried there. So we've been in the cemetery to put some flowers down. And then all of a sudden, Eleanor just ran over to this one grave, and there's a little boy buried in there. I think he's about 5-year-old, only a young child. And Eleanor starts running around the grave. And on the grave, there's like a little statue of a boy, of what he looked like. Say that big. And then all of a sudden, she's like talking to the statue.
This is it, see?
She put her hand on his foot, and
This is it, so you don't know, do you?
And that didn't even, like I said, and we didn't even. The thing is, when we were walking, because it's a massive, quite good sized graveyard in that sense. But as we were walking around, we didn't even walk past it. Someone just took her eye to it, and she went, boom, gone.
That's what I'm saying, though. With you having it, she's probably got it from you.
Yeah.
She most probably can see things.
Well, quite a few. I know a few readings I've had over the years about people saying about her being sensitive like me.
Yeah, seriously, I reckon. I believe that. So. I believe that can happen.
Yeah.
I believe kids can see things that we can't.
Well, this we have a few comments we can get into. Okay. Carrie's actually put a comment here talking about spirit, about taking animals and investigation. I wonder if a parrot could repeat things that spirits say. How freaked out would you be if your parrot sat down behind you?
That's what I mean, though. I mean, she's going like saying about parrot, like it could be possible. I was even thinking that about birds. Can birds do it?
Yeah. Well, Carrie's mentioned something here about the past life stories from children. Definitely, yeah. Well, did anybody watch that series? Have you watched it on Netflix? Oh, I can't. What's it called? It's called Surviving Death. Let me have a look.
Didn't they used to have birds that detect gas?
Oh, yeah.
So there you go.
What are they called? Canaries.
Yeah.
Surviving Death. So there was a series on Netflix called Surviving Death, and it thinks that there's so many episodes. So you go from past lives to near-death experiences, people who died, and then you go from like mediumship and to signs from loved ones, and then it goes obviously with the past lives. Definitely interesting. And in regards to this, there's quite a few really interesting stories about children past lives. We'll have to do an episode. But if you haven't seen that series, it's definitely worth a watch. It's definitely interesting of people's different experiences.
I think I've seen that. I think
but one of the, because you mentioned animals, and obviously Carrie mentioned the parrot, it just reminded me of one of the stories of what happened to, which was sounds from loved ones. And these two sisters, I think it was either when the mum died or their sister died, she always said, I think they'd see a specific bird, or no, sorry, the sister had said, if you're with me, can I want to see this bird or something.
Wow.
And this bird is not from their area. It doesn't come in within their area. And then looking outside, that bird was on the windowsill.
I was going to say,
and then they walked out, and then they went outside, and the bird jumped on it, and it wouldn't fly away, and it stayed on her. And the bird's not from that area, so it shouldn't be in where they are. But yeah, it's butterflies as well. There was a thing about butterflies, and this guy was working in a bar, and all these butterflies like appearing from nowhere, and it's impossible for these things to be in the theatre in New York.
I had that with a bird. Appeared on my thing, if you remember. Appeared on my windowsill, and we kept tapping my window. And do you know how many? He'd done it for 3 days. Why? I never found out why.
Oh, I remember you saying that, yeah.
Anybody have ideas why the bird would tap on a window for 3 days constant?
Especially when they've got a cat upstairs.
Yeah, well, obviously, yeah. And I'm bewildered. And then it just disappeared, never come back. Very weird.
Mark, what type of bird were it? Were it a robin?
Yes.
Because a robin, they say it's like a spirit, don't they? They say it's like
So trying to get in.
A lot of people are experienced with robins.
For 3 days it did this, tapping on the window.
Wow, that's cool.
And it was a robin.
Yeah.
But then it never come back after that.
Say it's your loved ones coming to see you. That's what they say. Well, yeah, that's what they do say with the Robin. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I watched a video once of this. Robin was tapping on the woman's window.
Yeah.
So she opens it, comes running in her house. Not even phased.
I couldn't open the window because I ain't got no opening windows. Yeah. But seriously, he was kept, and they even took the wire away to try and stop him from tapping. Yeah. Right? You know, I moved out of the way the cable for the aerial, and he still come back onto the thing. He was still doing it. Yeah. Even though we had a chance of falling off a ledge, he just kept going at it. For 3 days we had that, and then he just disappeared.
Yeah. Mark just said here, children are more open to spirit. It is said.
I agree.
That the older we get, the calcium that builds up more makes us not open to spirit. Sounds crazy, I know. There are quite a few comments here as we come to the end of
that's amazing.
This week's episode. Children can. My grandson can definitely see the spirit that is in the house now. How are you getting on now, Anita? How is everything? In fact,
was it calmed down for you?
Yeah, the spirit tickles him. He has a particular giggle when he's being tickled, and he'll be in bed crying 1 minute, and the next thing, because he doesn't want to be in bed, and the next he's doing the tickle giggle. Then he goes to sleep.
Wow!
Big thank you to Cyril, my spirit. Wow.
It sounds a very friendly spirit to me.
Yeah, Carrie was saying then she's watched it. They're very good. In regards to surviving death, I'm going to catch up with these comments because the computer's not there. I'm saying yeah, it's amazing. Watched it. Yeah, 5 o'clock.
We will eventually move the computer and situate over here somewhere.
We are redecorating this room into a full-blown studio next week. So
it should look real good.
That's right. That's right, Jared. It was a rare type of bird that has never been seen in the area.
That's mental. Yeah, for 3 days and then it just stopped.
Yeah. Jared's just saying about maybe getting a past life regression done. You know, when you find out what you did in your past life. That'd be quite cool. Yeah, Anita's saying about loved ones from spirit, about Robin's. Betty, good evening. Since my son died, my daughter has butterflies in her house all the time.
What?
One stayed in my bathroom for days. I put it outside, it kept coming back inside.
Joking. Wow.
And Anita said everything's good. Oh, that's good. I'm glad everything's good now.
That is actually amazing. Them stories that we're hearing is absolutely brilliant. Seriously, thanks for your response.
Absolutely.
We like to hear what you like to tell us. It's absolutely fantastic.
It is. I've enjoyed today's episode.
I think it's been brilliant because
it took us 3 days to do it, but we found it live.
But we've come out with some stories. Well, Jared's put some stories which are absolutely solid. We've all given our opinions on it. But there's things that we didn't know that he was talking about, and we put it together, and now we've got a bit more knowledge of what really can go on.
Yeah. I know there's a few things, sorry.
Brilliant.
A few things I just want to mention before we do come to the end of this week's episode. We've been on nearly an hour. It's gone long back. I do hope you've all enjoyed it, obviously. That's the main thing. We will be live this weekend. Tomorrow, hopefully. I'm not working at the minute.
Where are we going?
I know. I'm going to drop
Bob off. Again.
I'm going to drop Bob off and leave him on his own.
Oh, ain't happening.
But we will be live this weekend. I'll put our states out so you all know we will be live. So it's either Friday. It'll either be Friday or Sunday. All being well. Obviously, weather dependent because weather's not.
Yeah,
although it's dry outside, it's just cold. So make sure we wrap up. But anyway, sorry for waffling. Yeah, we will be live this weekend, and of course, don't forget. Halloween schedule. I will post this on the Facebook. So Monday we have a live investigation for you. Halloween week. We've got a busy week ahead. Tuesday, obviously, we have Paranormal Tuesday. We're going to talk all things Halloween. So please make sure you join us. Wednesday we have Paranormal Living Story Time, which is we're going to tell our scariest. They are the freakiest experience.
Well, I got the most on it. I'm sure I have.
And obviously, we want you guys to tune in. Obviously, share your experiences as well. I'm intrigued for this one. It's going to be cool. I'm just going to write all the things down to the over the course of the weekend. And then the Thursday night live, Night of Experimental Communication. Obviously, as I mentioned, Denise will be in charge of that one. But that is going to be absolutely immense. And I'm really interested to see what happens. That's all I'm going to say about that one. And then I'm hoping Saturday. I'm hoping maybe Saturday night we will be able to get a live done which was originally planned. It just depends what time I finish work. Because I think it's an early finish, which is happy days.
Yeah.
And then Sunday, we have our Halloween special.
Yes.
Live investigation as well. So make sure you tune in with us and join us over the course of Halloween. And don't forget, we are sponsored, of course, by Paranormal Technology. Mark and Carrie are on this evening. Make sure you check them out, guys.
You all on anyway.
Absolutely.
Absolutely fantastic.
And you'll see out the equipment being used, of course, this weekend. And what I also want to say is I got a message off Jeanette Greenoff, who was a medium I got to interview for this week's podcast. And again, if you haven't listened to it, go to Apple or Google Podcast Paranormal.
Check it out.
And YouTube it is on there. And it's an interesting insight into her experiences. And as I mentioned, she passed away twice.
Yeah.
And she tells us what happened.
Absolutely
for her.
amazing.
So it's definitely it's a beautiful story. It's amazing. And I also have another clairvoyant, spiritual medium lined up for an interview. I've got to ring the gentleman on Monday, and then hopefully it will be done next week, and then I can release it. So I'm excited for that. And this gentleman is the one who told me to go to awareness class to start my development.
Ooh.
So if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have obviously gone to awareness class.
Tune in for that one because that'd be really good.
Yes. Yeah, and he's a nice guy as well. He's a great medium. And finally, we bid you good night. Thank you very much for tuning in. Obviously, Bob, it's been good. Thanks for the brew.
Pleasure.
We just need some paranormal living mugs now. We will see you this weekend for an investigation, guys. Stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks for tuning in.
If we don't see you before, we will see you Halloween week for a busy week. Take care. Stay safe. Love and light.
I might disappear. You never know. I might go in home somewhere and not, get lost or something. Whatever. So it's worth tuning in for that one.
Oh dear. Adios, everyone.
Take care.